beautiful meeting in the city of Lahore. I have a bad throat today, so please beg my pardon. So the topic given to me is hemochromatosis diagnosis and management, and it's a very rare disease. And I have come across only one patient with hemochromatosis in my entire medicine career. So what is the history behind this disease, hemochromatosis? So the original description of hemochromatosis usually been attributed to a case report by Trozio in 1865. In that report, a patient was described with diabetes, pigmented cirrhosis, a bronze-colored skin, and after the leading term, the bronze diabetes by Victor Horn. So it's a very old disease. This is a human skull. So this human skull of a bog man discovered in Ireland in a peat swamp and estimated to be 4,000 years old. And this man carried H63D mutation of the HFE gene. So it's a very old disease. So what is hemochromatosis by definition? So hemochromatosis is a chronic iron overload of genetic origin. And basically, we can divide it into two: HFE hemochromatosis, which is the type 1, and non-HFE related hemochromatosis. So before going to the other slides, it's very important to understand the distribution of iron in adults. So in usual, there is a 1 to 2 milligram absorption of iron in the duodenum daily, and the main utilization occurs in the muscles, myoglobin 300 milligram, and in the bone marrow 300 milligram. And the circulating erythrocytes carried hemoglobin, which has 1800 milligrams of this iron. And then it stores in the liver 1000 milligrams, and in the reticuloendothelial macrophages 600 milligrams. And the total iron loss occurs through slough mucosal cells, desquamation, menstruation, and other blood loss, which averages around 1 to 2 milligrams per day. So what is its epidemiology prevalence? So HFE hemochromatosis, which is type 1, is more common and is present in more than 90% of cases. Generally, it is common in Northern European descent, and prevalence for C282Y homozygosity is 3 by 1,000 to 5 by 1,000 persons. And non-HFE hemochromatosis disease is a rare disease, like ferroportin disease or some exceptional diseases. Penetrance, there are some modifying factors which is related to hemochromatosis. Some are acquired, some are genetic, or you well know that diet modifies the metabolism, menses, pregnancies, blood loss, blood donations. Then there's genetic polymorphism or mutations of other genes related to iron metabolism. So they all play a role in the penetrance of hemochromatosis. Mostly, it is an autosomal recessive disease, with the exception of ferroportin disease, which is dominant one. So for the understanding the pathophysiology of hemochromatosis, it is very important to know these iron transport and absorption proteins. And these are transferrin, ferritin, transferrin receptor, and ceruloplasmin. Classical hemochromatosis, as you all know, it's an old disease. First description is in 1865. Then it is labeled as inherited disorder in 1935. So it's an autosomal recessive disorder of excess iron deposits in parenchymal tissues, causing organ damage and dysfunction. It affects liver, pancreas, heart, joints, pituitary, skin, almost most of the important organs of the body. And it is considered a rare disease of an elderly man. So this is the culprit gene, C282Y mutation in HFE gene. In late 1996, an HLA-linked gene on chromosome 6p21.3 was found to be associated with hemochromatosis patients. And it is more common in this Northwest European origin people. Then we have a rare disease, which is non-HFE hemochromatosis, and it has again further types. We have juvenile hemochromatosis, which is called type 2. And then there are two types of juvenile hemochromatosis, in which there is humojuvelin mutations type 2A, hapsidin mutations type 2B. Then we have type 3, which is transferrin receptor 2 mutations. A very rare disease, paraportin disease type 4, and it has paraportin mutations. A ceruloplasminemia, in which there is ceruloplasmin mutations. And then we have different other types related to different very rare mutations. So for the postgraduates and interns and residents, it's very important to understand what is the pathophysiology of this disease. So there is a quantitative defect in hepcidin ferroprotein interactions in type 1, 2, and 3 hemochromatosis. And it's a very commonly asked questions in BCQ, so it's very easy to understand. So what are the steps? First, there is a decreased circulating hepcidin. Step 2 is decreased hepcidin binding to ferroprotein. Then step 3 is internalization, but decreased ferroportin degradation, which leads to increased ferroportin, and then which leads to increased iron release due to increased ferroportin activity. So basically, this is the pathophysiology behind this disease. Then we come towards the very rare diseases like ferroportin disease, which is type 4 hemochromatosis, and aceruloplasminemia, which is basically deficiency of cellular iron export. So in ferroportin disease, again, the cartoon makes it very easy to understand that there is muted ferroprotein, step 1, and it leads to macrophagic iron excess due to deficient iron export, and it leads to Kupffer cell siderosis. So you can, I don't know if it's working or not. So it leads to Kupffer cell siderosis. Then in aceruloplasminemia, there is muted ceruloplasmin gene, and this mutation leads to absence of ferrooxidase activity, and which is needed for the iron uptake by transferrin. And this excessive ferroportin degradation leads to decreased cellular sorry for the inconvenience. So excessive ferroprotein degradation leads to decreased cellular export of iron, and this leads to intracellular retention of the iron. So this is the main mechanism, pathophysiology behind the iron overload, and it's very easy if you understand in steps. So how to establish the diagnosis of iron overload, clinical and biochemical? So there are certain clinical syndromes associated with the hemochromatosis. Usually patients presented with asthenia, arthropathy, osteopenia, skin pigmentation is very common, a change of the color complexion, impotence, diabetes, hepatomegaly is very classical, cardiac symptoms, you all know it leads to cardiomyopathy. Then there are certain biochemical parameters like hyperferritinemia, which is significant, more than 300 micrograms per liter in men and more than 200 micrograms per liter in women. And then there are some confounding factors which affects the disease like alcoholism, polymetabolic syndrome, inflammation, and hepatitis. Juvenile hemochromatosis. It's a very rare disease, but we should know that it's an autosomal recessive disorder, so it affects male and female equally, and usually presents between 10 and 30 years. It leads to severe iron overload, organ failure, high mortality rate, hypogonadism, cardiomyopathy, prominent features. Also, it leads to early cirrhosis, diabetes, and arthropathy as compared to the classical hemochromatosis. So, juvenile hemochromatosis, of the first 60 reported cases diagnosed at around 4 to 19 years of age, 11 died within 2 years of diagnosis with congestive heart failure, severe cirrhosis, and liver failure. Then MRI is a good modality to establish the iron overload nowadays. So hyposignal T2 weighted MRI provides hepatic iron concentration. And what are the benefits of the MRI? It's accurate, non-invasive strategy that most often eliminates the need for liver biopsy. This is a very important point in diagnosing iron overload. Then genetic analysis is very important for the diagnosis of hemochromatosis. So family data for hemochromatosis diagnosis like symptoms in favor of iron excess among family members. Personal data like transferrin saturation level is a key parameter. So this is a graph which can makes very easy. So diagnosis to prove genetic origin, elevated transferrin. So it's more than 60% in men and less than more than 50% in women. If the patient is Caucasian, go for the genetic test like C282Y. If yes, then it's a confirmed case of type 1 hemochromatosis. If it's no, you can go for the other genetic test. If the patient is less than 30 years of age, so you can go for hemojuvelin, hepcidin, ferroportin, and other types of the genetic tests for the diagnosis of non-HFE related hemochromatosis. And diagnosis in a patient with low or normal transparent, for example, less than 45%. So if anemia and neurologic symptoms, so you can go for the plasma serum cytoplasmin level. If it's normal, you can go for the genetic test. If it is positive, then it's ferroportin disease type 4 HC. If it is low or zero, so it's aceruloplasminemia. So it's very easy to diagnose with the genetic tests available, the different types of hemochromatosis. Liver biopsy, I already discussed with you. Since the advent of these HFE mutations analysis, liver biopsy become less important as a clinical tool in the diagnosis of hereditary hemochromatosis. But liver biopsy is recommended by ASLD to state the degree of liver disease in C282Y homozygotes or compound heterozygotes if liver enzyme transaminases are elevated or if ferritin is more than 1,000 micrograms per liter. So this picture is showing the classical iron overload. This is myocardial iron overload, and this is Prussian blue stain, which is used for the diagnosis of the hemochromatosis. So this is a very ancient picture showing the process of venesection. We all know that the main treatment for the hemochromatosis is phlebotomies or venesection. So venesection was basically used in the ancient era for several diseases. So venesection is the main treatment of choice for hemochromatosis related to hepcidin deficiency like type 1, 2, and 3, or inactivity type 4B hemochromatosis. You can start with the ferritin level of more than 300 micrograms per liter for men and more than 200 micrograms per liter for women. And in the induction phase, you have to go for 7 milliliter per kg body weight, that is less than 550 ml weekly. Your target is ferritin up to 50 micrograms per liter. Then for the maintenance phase, every 1 to 4 months, until ferritin is less than or equals to 50 micrograms. So you have to maintain this ferritin level for the lifetime in the hemochromatosis patient. So results, contraindications for venesection therapy. So results in type 1, 2, 3, and 4B is good for asthenia, skin pigmentation, liver disease, and cardiac function. Moderate for the arthropathy, which may worsen, and diabetes. This is very important. And poor for cirrhosis is risk of hepatocellular carcinoma. So life expectancy is normal if the treatment starts before cirrhosis and insulin-dependent diabetes. So this is the main key point in the management. Ferroportin disease poorly tolerated due to risk of anemia, and aceruloplasmin is contraindicated due to anemia. Then other treatment perspectives for the short-term perspective, once daily or oral chelator like D-ferricirox you can be given in possibly for type 1, 2, 3, and 4A hemochromatosis, or mainly for aceruloplasminemia, in which there is a risk for anemia due to venesections. And long-term perspective, hepcidin supplementation, because mainly this is a disease due to hepcidin deficiency. This is very important, future treatments. So there are certain genes which involves in all the metabolism and the absorption of the hemochromatosis. So the future targets of the treatment is against these genes. So inhibition of DMT1 gene expression in intestinal cell are general treatment approach. Inhibition of ferroportin gene expression and enterocytes, and expression of the wild type HFE gene in enterocytes. So these are the future treatments which are still under research. So in conclusion, hemochromatosis, many new entities have been identified in addition to the classic type 1. The advances in knowledge of disease pathophysiology have improved diagnosis, enhanced screening, and approach to treatment of hemochromatosis. So these are references from which I have made these slides. Thank you.